All right, so without further ado, I'd like to call the session of the July meeting of the Conservation Commission. And I guess,
There you are.
hello, there he is. All right. And first item obviously is the roll call. So I'll start with the remote folks. Larry Dunn, chair.
Tom Olson, member.
Ann Schmidt, member.
Ray Rafferty, Vice Chair.
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary.
And Dave Prescott, staff.
And I guess everyone else is now absent. That's the only one I heard from was Michelle, and she's here. All right. But we do have a quorum, so we will proceed. Is there anyone out there for public comment?
Nope, just us and you.
Okay. So let's start with the approval of the minutes from June 30th.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussions or amendments or changes? All right, without objections, the minutes are approved. Next item is, or was, public communication, of which there isn't any. Now the report of chair, I guess I'll go first on that. Okay. So on July 6th, myself, Michelle, and Tom met with Mark Berry, Tabitha Wilson, Parks and Rec.
June 6th. You said July.
Oh, I'm sorry, June 6th. It says June 6th on my paper. Okay. And the meeting was to meet the new stewardship manager, who's Tabitha, and we did discuss her responsibilities and got confirmation that it is to manage parks main crew, grant applications, permits, and open space. We discussed who is responsible for stewardship for open space. And after some discussion, Mark and Tabitha agreed that they are responsible but have insufficient resources to fully implement the job. All right, so at least that the agreement is there that it is their job, and we'll talk about resources in a bit. We discussed options going forward based upon our discussion. One was funding through the budget process, and there was an increase in the budget for Parks and Rec this cycle, and we should discuss about next cycle. Funding through grants and volunteer, either individual groups or business sponsorships. So that was the other part of the discussion. We also talked about the limitations and how to manage. We did get into union restrictions, and that if we are doing project-based work, we are going to need union oversight. So we need to consider that in our plans. The Parks and Rec Foundation and Commission, after some discussion, the conclusion was that they don't generate funds, but we could explore them, let's call it under that volunteer category, to help support certain projects. Follow-up actions. I recorded 3, and I'm going to ask Michelle and Tom to weigh in here. That Michelle has a lead on providing latest open space stewardship management guide to Tabitha. That the Conservation Commission and Parks and Rec will review the current open space parcels to identify the top, let's say, no more than a top 3, from which we'll pick one to pursue a case study on updating the management guide. And 3, we'll convene in August, meeting this subcommittee with Parks and Rec to pick the case study and the go-forward plan. Before I get to any other topics I had, let me open the floor to Tom and Michelle on any modifications, comments on that meeting that we had.
That was a really good recap. The only thing that we might want to discuss is the timing. I mean, I agreed to have the stewardship manual to those guys sometime by August. So we probably want to wait for them to have time to review it, get back to us, and then meet with them once everybody's sort of agreeing on, yeah, this is the current version that we're going to go with to beta test it.
I did recall that that the only topic for the August meeting was to pick the project, not necessarily go through the other stuff, that was going to be later.
Okay.
So I do acknowledge that. Let me just make a note and I'll update my notes, and I guess I could send I do have a document, I could send it to Dave. So add a step 4. On review of the of the management plan. Because we did,
We're calling it, this is stewardship manual, right? The management plans are parcel specific, whereas the overall guidance is a stewardship manual.
okay. All right,
Right.
and that would be well, I'll put down fourth quarter. Okay.
Okay.
Other comments?
I had no other additions. I thought the meeting went fairly well, and I've been dealing with, just for information, is I continued meeting with Mark and the Parks and Rec Commission later in the month, and I'll give that report later.
All right, very good. The other, let's see, on June 7th, I attended an Alliance for Mystic River Watershed kind of it was a presentation, it was a webinar. 25 people were on it. It was a presentation from a consultancy organization. And quite frankly, my view was that, well, there were some interesting facts that came out, but basically it was a sales pitch for groups to hire them to do more work. Okay. Those, come to lunch, get a free lunch and we'll sell you a condo. So that's what it struck me at, not that there wasn't some value out of it. A couple of things I got from the discussion was that, or some factoids, that one of the things that might be appropriate, that given the fact that the majority of fossil fuels that are consumed by the state of Connecticut, and I think the number was 2/3, came from single family homes that have oil furnaces, which, I kind of took me by surprise, as I guess thinking about it, I guess I'm not surprised. But that was, a major item. And one of the items that was suggested from other towns was that when you list houses, is to list energy costs to maintain the household. That would help mitigate by self-interest to, switch over to solar or something else to limit CO2 emissions and or other things. Andre was there, by the way, just an FYI. And I did talk to him about that and some of the other things that came up in the meeting. There was what was called the New Haven Strong School Project, which had a RFP for how to convert a old school property to a mixed use environment that was basically a green one. So I guess I'm passing that along, Dave, that says that there might be something in how they wrote that RFP. I have not got my hands on the RFP at this point, but that struck me as a point of interest.
Yeah, if you get a copy of that, I'm happy to forward that on.
Okay, copy. New Haven School.
To staff, obviously, unless you all want to see it too.
Okay. And the other thing was a thought of, with the thought of getting groups to do it, is should we, or is it an idea to contact the Chamber of Commerce to sponsor an open space parcel for stewardship? It's a business, on a certain parcel. So we can kind of put that in the mix of thoughts going forward. And given the fact that there was a number of environmental groups at this meeting, I raised the point of, hey, guys, when we have an initiative that we can all agree to, how could we rally all of us around a specific initiative? And there was a reception to that. I guess the question is picking the initiative and then working it out. So at least there's something in the wind for that. Beyond that, I did June 13th. I attended oh, wait a minute, I think I got those two confused. I'm sorry. My comments on the webinar being a sales pitch was the June 13th one, not the June 7th. That was just a meeting of the 25 people local in Groton. The June 13th one was titled 3 Ways to Estimate the Economic Impact of Trails and Outdoor Recreation. And that was the free sales pitch. It was limited to recreational economic impact. What's the tab? What's the leisure tab on the model that we use? I didn't see anything different. And it's another data point for how many dollars a hiker or a biker would spend, if they visited, a particular piece of property. So that's a quick summary of my report. And I guess I'll throw it open to the report of the commission for any other feedback, not feedback, but activities you've been working on.
Hey, Larry, can you clarify one thing? Because I knew you're throwing around a couple of dates. So what was the date for the Alliance for the Mystic Watershed meeting?
That was June 7th.
7th, okay.
And the June 13th was the economic impact of trails and outdoor recreation.
Okay.
Right. I'll send
Got
you a quick fact sheet.
Okay.
I do have a listing of all the people that attended from the Alliance meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, back to we'll start off with Tom, activity.
As far as from what I've been working with is that with the town of Stonington Greenway effort there, I've been supporting them. I've had one meeting with them, and they're setting up another one this coming week to interact and hopefully link up with our greenways. It's a combination of the Conservation Commission, Avalonia, and then they've hired or working with the Nature Conservancy to kind of coordinate everything for them. And so I'll be having that. I sent out a thing earlier during the month in regard to a Department of Defense Environmental Justice listening session. They're trying to get information. I was not able to attend it because of commitments with the Navy's office that I was doing an audit for them. So I was not able to attend either one of the sessions, but I did do a little research on that. There's, I guess, this executive order 14096 was issued back in April of last year that basically retasked all the agencies, federal agencies, to go back and take a look at what they're doing on environmental justice. The Department of Defense opened the page on theirs, and it's from 1995. So they're in the process of going back and surveying all their sites and trying to open up, get some general public input. So I don't know if Ann did if you were able to attend. You said you may be able to, but and then I noticed at last Tuesday's Town Council Committee of the Whole, in watching that they got a whole discussion into nip bottles again. And I guess Mayor Franco is pushing forward an initiative to have a buyback of nip bottles, where you'd come in and bring your bags and they'd weigh them, and I don't know how they're going to control all this, but it was all dumped on Public Works to go figure it all out. And so it's kind of interesting that they didn't talk to us or ask for any, our name wasn't mentioned in any of the discussion after an hour's worth of going around and around about nip bottles and stuff. So just let people know that was discussed. And I've got my other stuff is already on the agenda. Thank you.
All right. Ann?
Actually, I had a question for Tom. Is that like a rebate thing that the town wants to put into?
Yeah, they want to take the
Oh.
$65,000 and, put it up as, how much money of that do I want to allocate to buybacks of the 3.2 million bottles that have been bought since they started the program? How much do I want to buy back? Is it a nickel a piece? Is it $50 per
Oh.
pound, or however? That's all
Figure
been,
out what
that's to
it is.
figure out. They dumped all that on Public Works.
And what are they gonna do with that information?
Well, no, they're gonna set up so many days per year at
Their
the
own
transfer station or in coordination with
Okay.
the SCARA people or whatever to buy back nip bottles and use that money that's coming into the town. Rather than giving it right now, they're supposed to be giving it to half for
Right,
cleanup type of efforts with Parks and Rec, and half to Public Works for buying a vacuum truck.
right.
They're
Okay.
going to change their mind again as far as on how they want to allocate the funds. So, yes, Ray.
Just a quick follow-up on that. When they do the collection, what do they plan on doing with the bottles?
Oh, they're just going to go in the trash and send them up to the incinerator.
So they can't find a vendor to recycle.
No, there's no vendors available. Everybody agrees with that.
I think they should get a trash compactor and make bricks out of.
Well, hey, look, guys, let's not,
Greg Hanover.
Yeah.
yeah, the
But I
issue,
think we as a commission should be aware of what's going on and
Yeah,
thank
making
you for letting us
recommendations
know.
appropriately.
Exactly. Thank you, Tom. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for
yeah.
keeping us informed.
So I do think we should come back to that, because that's fraught for misuse. Because you don't know if they're because the money is only for the town's allocated funds. And I'd go out and get bottles from anywhere and bring, I mean, it just doesn't seem like a bright idea. I guess we could think about restructuring our initial input. Remember, we did that survey, which didn't get a lot of response, quite frankly. The recent survey, but also comment on the recommendations that was made. And now that I think about it, maybe if it was Public Works, maybe we should get our input to Public Works. So let's think about that, and let's come back to it in the body of our meeting. All right. So Bray?
The only thing that I'd like to add is to expand the concept of open space to the water. In that, in the past month, there was a program on television talking about small communities reclaiming their stewardship of their marine environment or their aquatic environments. And it's something that we really haven't scratched very deeply in this. And there was a concept that was mentioned that just I thought was a great one, is that when I was earlier on the Conservation Commission, when we were acquiring open space, we were shooting for that 21% model. And Tom has brought up to us that we're going to up the game to 30% coming from the feds. Well, in this particular discussion about aquatic environments, they were referring to on a world's basis, that we should set aside 30% of the oceans to be non-take areas that are being left in natural open space, if you will, standards. So consider what we do when we talk about open space and how we manage it and steward it. Look at invasive species, access to it, that this concept is one where there's a very small group, it's just starting to apparently start worldwide in very small communities who've watched commercial fishermen come in to their local waters, coming close to near shore and destroy what was there and overfish. And in doing that, completely change the environment of what was there. And the resiliency to the environment was greatly compromised because of this. And it drove local folks to say, we're going to take a small area that's in our own backyard. We're not trying to make big open ocean area into a protected area. And I was thinking of how do we do it locally, perhaps here. So perhaps it might be something where we're looking at this near new group that's now doing a lot of work coastal wise, eelgrass, for instance, studies, that there might be something about a no-take area, maybe let's say Long Island Sound for perhaps, where different communities get together and just say that the commercial fisheries or very heavy impact on it has to cease, and that we have to allow it to try to return back to what might be considered as a normal environment. And that this 30% concept of having protected 30% protected areas throughout the world seemed like a no-brainer. But it's all political. It's all there are lots of obstacles to it. But I think it's an interesting starting point for us to think about.
Right. It is interesting that it gets it. You're right. A lot of politics, legal, and
Right.
then you finally get the environmental.
Right.
But it is an interesting thought. Right.
And they brought the stakeholders into it. So they brought people who actually are, it's a fishing community in some cases. So they brought the fishermen in to say, this is where your livelihood, this is where you go to collect your animals and so forth. They're watching a decline in animals that they're bringing in. And so there's a direct concern for the fishermen. So it's, bringing lots of different stakeholders in to make this happen.
All
Thank you.
right. Michelle?
Nothing new. Thank you. That we already talked about.
So, I didn't really have a chance to do
No,
the
no, you're
group-
good. Good.
Yeah, so I
have-
participated in the Town of Groton Climate Resilience Workshop. That was, when was that, last Wednesday?
Last Wednesday,
Wednesday.
yeah.
A very wide range of group of people, and we broke out into groups and just really a brainstorming session on different aspects of climate resilience. I also, I know we're going to talk about this later, but the energy consumption, I did listen to that webinar, so we can talk about that later. And I also attended a Zoom on impactful urban planning with trees with the Yale School of Forestry. And I'll send, Dave, I'll send you a short summary of that. They had some interesting approaches on environmental justice and urban planning for trees.
Okay.
All right. Back to Old business, open space inventory. I guess the question is, I don't know of any updates. Tom, were they any changes?
the update I have, this is where it's one of the multiple items I'm going to input on here is the Parks and Rec inventory. We went back and forth there. I think I found one minor correction that I'll have to update to Noah that was on the inventory. So I'm just accumulating those rather than to put things together for him. But when I presented it back to the parks, and I made all their changes that they recommended, they wanted whether it's protected or preserved for each one of the items and stuff. So I went through all that stuff. They were satisfied with everything that I had done in that area for all the categorization for all the park designated areas, the mini parks, the community parks, and the open space and stuff. But there's another section that they had in their inventory previously was cemeteries. And we recognize that I put a statement in there that these aren't considered open space areas. But as a courtesy thing, I had put all the IDs in there just to make it consistent with how everything else was listed. And then that kind of spun them up. So Mark has a bunch of action items from them in regard to cemeteries. Which ones are you really taking care of and which ones aren't you taking care of? And so he has to go answer all those questions before they would approve it. Okay, so it technically, I'm clear that I specifically asked, do I need to come back to you guys? Or because you have no more questions on my stuff. They were ready to approve it. They made a motion actually, and then withdrew it to approve it when they recognized that they had some questions in the discussion about the cemeteries for Mark, because he wasn't able to answer them. And Tabitha wasn't at the meeting because I think this is going to get dumped onto her as far as another stewardship action, as far as what they're doing with cemeteries. And they don't meet in July, and so they won't take this up until the end of August at their next meeting. Just to let you know, so this thing is kind of dragging out, but the listing is good to go with them now. And as far as for their updates, they were also concerned as far as, I think there's been it's all new people since the last time they processed this. So there's a lot of procedural stuff as far as what they have to do with the regulation and how to get it to the town council. Because I was explaining a lot of that referral process and that kind of stuff to the folks. So more to follow, but Mark should be able to shepherd this thing through, but it'll definitely be, we won't see any action until the September, October timeframe. As far as it getting to the town referral to the town council.
Okay. Anything else on inventory?
I have nothing else on the inventory.
All right. Next topic is open space planning. I guess I should point out that, and this is probably a question to Dave, is that in the past, when I submitted the changes and updates to the plan for the website, I mean, the IT department turned around in like hours. It's been weeks and nothing has changed on the.
I do have an answer for that, and I asked that you be patient. They are struggling with staffing issues right now. They do not have a director, so they're kind of trying to handle as much as they possibly can. So at this point, they're only like prioritizing the top things. It's not that you're being ignored. It's just that there's no one right now that's running the IT department as the director. So they said just to be patient with them, and they'll get to it.
Okay, I kind of thought that was probably the case, but I mean, I guess I should have just.
These were held last week. Just
Well, it still takes time.
Yeah.
It's still.
Yeah, I mean, just send a reply that says having staffing issues, it was like a black hole, right? Which nobody.
Nobody did send that reply to you.
Right.
That
part
felt
of the
empowered.
issue. Yes.
Okay, all right, that open space planning. So, did send out, let's see. So I did get input from Tom. I made some comments. That was sent out in the agenda. And I thought we would go through, let's see, let me share.
That's the section 7 stuff. Are you talking about the section 7 updates?
Yes, I'm sorry, section 7, yeah. I mean, my earlier comment was that the update that we approved at the last meeting is not out on the website because of the IT issues.
Yes.
So that was why I did it under that section. So this is, so I guess the column, J is,
J and K. Yep.
J and K were updates. And I guess my comment is, does anyone have any comments on either mine or Tom's? But then there's the ones that didn't have an answer on, that someone would like to provide input on. There's some for Kristen,
Chris is not here today.
not here. And there's one for Anne. And one for Michelle. Another one for Anne. I mean, so there's only a few that don't have what I would call, comments, given the state of where we're at. And again, this was just to kind of reset for the next iteration of the POCD. So do you guys have, Anne and Michelle, would you like to comment now, or will you commit to providing, written feedback to me on
Well,
those line
my-
items?
right, my line item is about meeting with the town staff and collaborating on stewardship, so we already talked about that.
Uh,
7.3.6.
okay, yeah. All right, that meeting happened after I put this out. Okay. So that was 7.3.7. Okay,
And I think was 7.45 with the climate emergency, now that Megan has been hired.
It's really outside our scope.
the town, what was that?
It's kind of outside our scope.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
think at this point, she's in charge of all the climate issues, so I think we can take that off, or however you want to label it.
OBE?
Well, no, you take credit for we're doing things. We
Well,
we've
true.
supported getting her
Yeah,
on board, getting her
true.
up to speed.
Yep.
She's-
Yep.
The short-term action's completed.
yep. Okey doke. Oh, geez. All right, that didn't work out that well. All right. Wrapped it. All right, any other? Of any other ones there?
I thought there was two for Ann.
Let's see.
It's the other one.
There's that one. There was Michelle. There's one. Oh, the social justice stuff. Okay. 7.2.7.4. Okay.
I think is that pretty much done? Or I guess I never followed up with the city of Groton conservation member. I can do that.
Well, I think partly was then to provide the input to the POCD, the rewrite of the POCD as well. So I think there are maybe is that close with
We want to shift that into the ongoing then?
probably or no, or shift it to POCD, because a lot of these are POCD ones, right? And I think that's where we now should shift it. Update. Okay. So I'm gonna do that,
That makes sense.
and this then becomes, oops, it is ongoing. Let's see, I think it was yeah, it is ongoing.
Right, it's
Okay.
already listed as ongoing, yeah.
Yep, okay. Is that? Okay, other than Kristen, then. Well, she's been doing a lot of work on the pollinator pathways. They've actually executed. I
Yeah,
think
what's the number of hers, Larry?
I'm sorry,
What's the number on her item?
7.2.5. Oh, wrong one. 7.2.4.3. I believe. No, maybe not. No, maybe it's this one.
Oh,
Next one. 7.2.5.1. And I think that morphed into the pollinator gardens, and she's been working on that.
Yes, she has.
Yep. So a lot of, I guess the question with that would be is, what's the scorecard today?
well, I know that she's still working with ECCD, with Heather Purdy from ECCD. And that grant is not completed yet. I think it's coming up due sometime this summer is when that's going to wrap up, but she's still doing, I think there's like two or three sites to go yet. Yeah. That's the
All right.
last I heard from her.
All right, so what I can do is get a scorecard from her and I could just throw it in there, and then I think we got to work on getting this to the POCD. All right, or the aspect into the POCD, which was the purpose of trying to update this to begin with. All right, let me stop that and go back to my agenda. Okay, well, which was the next one is Plan of Conservation Development. It is now, well, it's now July. So Dave, do we have a target for, I guess, the kickoff meeting? I mean, the decision to make the award was done. I don't know if the award was actually executed.
I know they were finalizing the contract with them, so I think our thing is, I gotta find out whether or not it was signed and solidified for that. So the next step would be to do is to discuss the kind of the kickoff meeting sometime this fall.
Right. Well, I thought we were trying to get it done. Well, I guess July and August is tough
Might be shot, yeah.
to get anything done, but
Yep.
all right, but it's moving forward.
It is, yep.
Okay. All right.
Listed yet on the town website as far as who the award has been made to.
Yeah, I think until it gets signed, they're not going to put it out there.
You're right. I'm just saying it hasn't been
Yeah.
announced.
Yep. And and that we're under a non-disclosure agreement to not disclose that until the signature,
Right.
effectively. All right.
But Larry, on this topic, at last week's special meeting of the Complete Streets Committee, they had asked how they're going to get involved into that process, into the POCD process. And I told them the same story here, that the announcement hasn't been made yet, that there's going to be a meeting in the future, and there was no rep from Office of Planning and Development Services there.
Yeah, because that was away.
Right, right. So I'm just passing that along more for your information than anything else.
All right. Well, one of the line items in it was to meet with various town groups. And to me, that under that section, that would be how they would be involved. Now, whether that's one-on-one or whether they do certain subsets of commissions, because there are a few commissions. But that I think we would have to address during the kickoff meeting. I mean, it's a good point, Dave, is that if you look at it, there's probably 15 plus volunteer organizations. There's another 15 plus commissions. Having one-on-ones would be probably inefficient.
Yeah, I don't, that's how they're gonna do it. I think there's gonna be some like smaller focus groups that are gonna focus on different entities, different commissions and whatnot to solicit feedback.
Right. That's where I was going, is that part of the kickoff session should be to agree on, which commissions get grouped or which organizations get grouped, so that it's effective, yet everyone gets to feel they've been heard.
Yep.
So I think that's obviously one of the first things to discuss is how we're gonna go about it. And-
And I'll reiterate again too, I mean, the big thing too is, yes, the committees, the organizations are really important, but we want this to be community-wide engagement. So we are going to do something very similar to like what we did with the community conversations and get out to the community and solicit feedback from those that don't normally have voices. So we have the most comprehensive plan going forward. So yes, they're well aware of meeting with the existing committees and organizations and whatnot. But there is a big movement towards making sure that we're hearing from voices that normally haven't.
Well, getting them to show up is a challenge.
Yep. Well, and that again, similar to what we did with community conversations, the plan is we're not doing much here. This is not the location we're going to be doing stuff. We will be out in the community. And because it's not, this is, as you know, as you all know, that you really get the same people come to the commission, the town council meetings, commission meetings and whatnot. And that is not an effective representation of the community. So we have talked a lot about really, not just saying, oh, we're going to meet at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever. We're going to do a morning meeting. We're going to do mid-afternoon. We're going to provide babysitting. So these are all things that we're trying to explore and be actually out in the community. So we're going to attend events at Pequannock Plains Park or other places around there and have a table to get feedback and whatnot. So these are all things that were part of the RFP and also were part of the consultant. Well, basically all Larry knows this, of all the consultants of how they were going to reach out to different groups and different members of the community. So.
Yep. All right. We'll see how it goes. Budget support. I guess the Parks and
Before we
Rec.
get on space planning, I just have a related item that we talked a little bit about. One of the things that I've been looking at here in regard to open space and the POCD playing all that together here is that as far as for us taking a proactive stance in regard to land acquisition for open space. There is a parcel over on 42 Thomas Road, which is an old golf course. It's a butts between both Sparkle Lake and the Joel property. And it's the only remaining
The
parcel.
old par 3 one, right? There was a
Yes.
par 3 there, yeah.
Yeah. And it has a section along Birch Plain Creek that it owns. And it actually comprises of 5 different parcels. And all 5 are on the market for a total of $5 million. And it's about 46 acres total for the entire parcel. And one of the things that I had as far as in my June cleanup there that I reported on last month with the ECCD folks, Andre had asked me to go take a look at what areas could be done here with potentially something like that parcel, because it is close to Branford Manor in the area of the city. And when I went off and looked at this and I got all the information, the valuation of the entire 46 acres by the town is for $209,800. So there's a basic difference here between what's being asked and what for 46 acres is a lot, but and it's in an industrial zoned area.
In a flood
Okay.
zone.
And portion of it is in a flood zone. And that's where, that's when you start breaking these parcels apart is should we as the Conservation Commission be taking an active role in this? So I took a little bit of initiative here and went to the Athletic Fields Task Force and asked them, are they considered this parcel and are they interested in going after it? And the response I got from them was that it was very interesting from the aspect that they were looking at their priority right now is all the fields that are in the campus across the street here with the high school and middle school, as far as on all those fields, and improving the facilities there. Okay. And potentially down, because they already know there's stuff going on at Pequannock Plains and this whole campus area as far as doing things there. they agree that, putting that it is a good location because it's flat and it's also close to Branford Manor, but they're a little torn as far as from a prioritization effort, and getting funding and this type of stuff, that they want to put their money where they feel where the community is asking for it more so than what they see there. They agree that in the big picture it fits, but it has not risen into their efforts to doing anything. So they have no active projects looking at any fields at that location right now. So I haven't gotten back to Andre about any of this, but one of the things that in doing the research here, I said, in reality, if they've got 50 acres and the parcel that's along the Birch Plain Creek is about 8 acres, or 8.6 acres, I think it is, yeah, 8.8 acres. That almost matches up with the kind of thing that they would be giving to us anyhow, since it is all in the flood zone, wetlands, NDDB, it's all the natural for the ecology, for the animals and all this type of stuff. It basically takes up the whole parcel. So it's this type of stuff they would give to us anyhow. Okay, is that should the town take a proactive approach here, starting from our recommendations, to go to the owner and says, hey, we want this parcel now. Okay, and we'll relax any of the ordinance relative to the subdivision regulations, so that you're going to have to give us 10% or 20%, depending on what you're developing, because this would meet the criteria of it, and relax them from that requirement, basically by giving this to us early as
Great
the thought
idea.
process. So I don't know what your opinions were from the council and stuff, or from the commission here, in regard to giving a task or putting a referral in or a letter, and how to approach this. I just kind of toss that one out there when it comes under open space planning and things that should we be more proactive in this arena.
Hmm,
I like it.
well, Michelle, you're gonna,
like it. I think it's a great idea.
It's a topic of conversation that the Conservation Commission has had for a number of years, is that connection, that broken connection between Sparkle Lake property
Yeah.
and the Joel property.
Right.
And in the past, the discussion was taking place when it was still an active golf course.
Mhm.
And there wasn't much interest from the owners of the golf course
Right.
at that time. So this is an interesting, it's since been on the market for a long time.
It's about couple of years I've seen the posting there.
And it looks like every so often new people have their sign up.
Yeah, they've been trying different realtors.
Yes, exactly. They're running through the realtors because nobody's biting. And
Yeah.
I don't know that the town has had any inquiries. about-
No, there's been some inquiries, but again, the challenge is the majority of the property is in the AE 10 zone. So that is very challenging in terms of the building requirements for what would have to happen there. So, and like the only part that's
Yeah.
out is this section here, which is the X, but everything else is all within there. So that's, I think, one of the big challenges. But yeah, it's, there has been, I know internally there has been some discussion about that and what to do with it, because it's a massive parcel. I'm doing all of them. It's a lot of land.
Yeah, it's a lot of land.
Right.
I was just looking at because it's already pre-broken up and stuff. The 8 acres alongside the
Right.
creek, just getting that,
I think it's,
let them sort out what they want to do with the rest of it. But by being proactive here and says, hey, if you give us this now and take it off,
Right.
we're going to give you a release of the, and figure out how to do that because we've never really been proactive as far as, you got a regulation out there that says you got to give us, the acreage. Well, let's be proactive about it and get it early.
right. I think it's a great idea.
well,
And-
I think that if the planning staff would look at it first and come up with a plan that has that in there, that says a trade-off, et cetera, that would make it more amenable for the right kind of development, right? Protect as much as we can. Then I think we as the commission could support, partner, whatever it is with that, try and get some local support from the community, to support that. But for us to go first to that, I guess I have a problem saying that we're going to reach out and say, and try and broker a deal that says, we'll pursue changes to, zoning or anything else, if you do this. I think that has to be an overreaching staff and development kind of thing that says what's in the best interest to the town. And we're a part of that and could support something like that for a change. But I kind of question whether we should champion it, at the start. Other comments?
Well, the reason I put that forward is that if that's going, I went to the athletics task force first. I think the next step would be to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission to say, hey, we're trying to be more proactive here. And as far as being, I'm not saying that we have to be in charge of negotiations, but in reality, let's say if our recommendation was to buy the full acreage or whatever, and go go use some of our money to go do get an appraisal of what the value of the property actually is worth, not what this $5 million thing is. And if we were to go in for an OSBA grant, just like we did on the abutting property on Sparkle Lake, how was that done in 2013? I guess, who took the initiative from that? Was that a Conservation Commission, Bray, or was that town manager, or was it planning staff?
Planning
Staff.
staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to start there, Tom. I mean, it's not necessarily, I mean, it might be a very good idea, but there's so many pieces to it, right? You got the conservation piece, you got the zoning piece, you've got the appraisal piece, I mean, I would think that we need to say, and maybe back to Dave, is there an interest in seeing, can we the town, craft a solution that would encourage the right, I'll say the right kind of development, and provide the protection, a protected land for that. Because right now, it's fine, right? Nobody's using it, and it's just sitting there. But there's no guarantee on that in the future.
Yeah, but the flip side of it is like what Dave was saying, that it's all flood zone. These are the type of areas that people are out there looking from a climate change area. And ideally, if, in my viewpoint, that we ought to be taking a look at this whole area, even pushing the airport. The airport's in the wrong place. Let's be brutally honest with you. It's going to go away in the future. And so should we be putting, in whatever happens with that, when they're going to bail out, we should be being proactive, looking at the airport too. I mean, these are some of the things that I think when I listen to I go to all these, meetings, we get sent to Kakiwik and to CLTC, and trying to be proactive. And we're just doing nothing here, and is not getting it done. And so that's why I'm saying that some people, if we just let things go the way it is, it's just going to sit there and not really.
Okay, I hear you. I mean, you got two totally different examples. One is, I think, from the nerve perspective, because it's adjacent to state property, and also with the water, is that their projections and futures should guide the direction of what to do with that land. I mean, there's probably not a lot of choice other than let the sea reclaim it, right, to something, right? And whatever's left is left. So I think that's a bit different than this other property, which can be used. But I guess I would like to at least say, is there an interest from the town staff to be proactive, and I'll use Tom's word, to be proactive in trying to, make appropriate changes again, for the good of the town. Can I just throw that question out, Dave, and see if there's any interest whatsoever?
And I would just ask that probably the best thing to do is to put in an email, send it to me, and I can forward it on to John, and John can come up with a formal response to that based upon what they're thinking.
All right, that's fair.
Can I just add one quick comment that one of the things that going forward for open space or open space acquisition, we've sitting out there is linkages. We have a lot of parcels that are solo parcels near something else, but there's not a connection to it. And usually it's private land rather than state land or others that are in between. So this would be from the standpoint of looking at just this, let's say 8 acre parcel, is identifying a linkage between already existing properties. And what would be in our quiver to identify and move ahead and see if we can protect that piece of property, how to go about it. And this appears to be, using the term proactive, is to saying, well, we've identified this for a very long time. It's still on the table for everybody, for lots of folks. This is now a new sort of opportunity, a new way of approaching it. And maybe this is something that a mechanism may work in future connectors somewhere.
And I think that's exactly the kind of rationale that that the email would throw in there. That we feel is that this is a great
Yeah.
connecting piece between Sparkle Lake and whatever, in terms of,
Yeah.
to kind of tell the story and tell the reasoning behind why that we think, why
Right.
the commission thinks this is the right move.
All right,
Yeah.
so let me throw out an action. Would Bray, you and Tom look to make a draft of such a request to town staff?
Not a problem.
Okay.
All right, ideally, if we could have that, a draft for the August meeting that we could review.
You'll have it tomorrow.
I don't work that fast.
Well, for Brait's review tomorrow.
All right, well, we could set the Bray and me
Then
and.
yes, we'll be ready for August. Yes.
Right.
All right, well, then you meet the August criteria. Oh, geez, all right. Let's see. Oh, we were on, okay, that was plan of conservation development.
It was kind of a roll up between the two, yeah. You
Yeah,
can move
yeah,
on
yeah.
to budget support.
The budget support. Now, so the budget support, we were focusing on, it's almost, we got the next iteration now, right? It's a year off now. So I guess the question is, it looks like Parks and Rec and staffing, and there's a new topic or new business I can introduce. I just got it today and I sent it out, which is the review of the community forest plan. But buried in there, and I'll talk to that under new business, but buried in there is an estimate of what the budget should be with some examples on, or some rationale and why their recommendation is there. So I think as we go forward, for the next cycle, it's still on the stewardship funding. I mean, does that make sense to you guys? Because it does fit with this new business item that just came up.
I haven't had a chance to go through all the gory details of the thing, but as they were developing this, I did have discussions with Mark Berry from Parks and Rec, and a lot of this is all tying up with his budget as far as for personnel resources, because this is who funded it. So it's really a Parks and Rec and our continued support for their initiatives. I don't know if we're in a position to make recommendations as far as what they should be doing. But we may want to have a follow-on meeting at our next, we have a follow-on meeting coming up in the August, September timeframe with Tabitha, and we need to make sure that on that agenda, is a discussion of what their resource requirements are going to be as Mark puts together his inputs to the town manager for the Parks and Recs meeting, budget. Because in my discussions with the Parks and Rec Commission, they really didn't contribute to that. I get the impression from talking to much of the face-to-face at last month's meeting with the commissioners that they really don't get involved in the budget process. Mark's pretty much doing that as an independent department head, much as John does for the planning and development staff too. It's really not inputs from us or the commissions.
No, I hear you. I think maybe this time around that maybe we should get them to at least take a position to support,
Yeah.
comment on those budgets, I mean, versus being silent. So just a thought. All right. So I think we'll continue down the road of the funding for stewardship. And you're right, the follow-up plans we have with Parks and Rec and this new item, which I'll get to in a bit. And I did do a brute read of it before the meeting, so I'll give you a couple of things to look for when you guys review it. But that's coming up. Vacant
And-
land, yes.
And Larry, I was gonna say, based upon what you sent out today to the commission, the plan is to discuss that tree survey, tree assessment next month in detail, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm just gonna
Everyone
give
got that? Homework.
homework. It's not, even though it's 104 pages, it's not 104 pages. I mean, there's some filler in there.
A lot of
It's
pictures.
only 102.
Some blank pages.
Come on. All right, so
But the
moving
tree
on.
advisory board is in there.
It is, yes.
Yes, it is. I'll get to that. I got a couple of comments on it. But 4.5 vacant land review, I have nothing new to add. Do you have anything, Dave, it's so far, I mean, we ask this every month and it's kind of slowly edging forward, slowly.
No, yeah, I don't have anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay.
They have asked it at the town council meetings as far as what's going on. And it refers back to the town managers responsible for calling the next meeting of the TOPE.
Yep, okay. The Connecticut College project, that's
Nothing
it-
new.
Yep, and it's in the queue, Michelle. I have the stuff and it's been sent to IT, and as you heard it before, we're waiting.
And I
Uh,
hope to have the next, the PowerPoint for the August meeting.
yep,
That's
very
my
good.
plan.
All right, anything on outreach, as long as we're on your end of the table?
Before we skip over the open space stewardship comment, because I thought
Yeah.
we kind of skipped number 7 there. I do have a comment relative to the this area. There was a Long Island Sound workshop this past week. I was not able to attend it, but I did get the post meeting email that went out about it, and by Savin they're looking for projects in regard to, that in Groton is one of the shoreline communities from the whole length of the state, and for that can be potentially funded. And so one of the things that got me is they're trying to make this program similar to what was approved, because it's potentially federal funded. Okay. And I guess the state of Massachusetts has had very good success, particularly in the Cape Cod area, as far as in getting these funds. And one of the project areas that was kind of interesting was that in regard to culverts and widening them so you have better tidal flow through these. And the one that comes to mind is the Birch Plain Creek, Baker Cove area, okay? Because we're getting a lot on our property, on the town property, particularly at the Joel property, we're not getting that tidal flow. And so now you're getting a bunch of phragmite building up and this type of stuff over the long term. Is that should we be proactively pushing to take a look at a culvert expansion? Because I took a look I noticed that in some of the discussions here is that Public Works is going to be redoing the culvert at Thomas Road there. Okay. And making sure how, we need to be, do we need to be proactive with that project in regard to ensuring that it's a sufficient breadth to handle an increased flow that's necessary to get the proper tidal flow so that it can be returned back to its natural state. Now, this would also require potentially working with the Amtrak people because they have another culvert that's downstream before the Thomas Road one, to going through there to take a look at the measurements and do a study on all this, the engineering support, and to make sure that the town's project will that be increasing the flow? Because I can tell you that the flow that's in that culvert right now is pretty small, because I'm able to put my kayak through the one for the Amtrak one. I was able to go through at low tide, and so that tells me something that it's fairly decent size. But you can't do that at Thomas Road. But the town has a project to go and increase that to redo that culvert because along Thomas Road, even though they just recently did all the roadway up to it, they're supposed to be now looking at the
I
culvert
think they
itself.
redid the bridge not too long ago.
I don't know what, but there's an upcoming, infrastructure project for the town to be looking at that. I know that.
I think.
But
they-
should we
they
be
redid
proactive? That's the same.
The bridge before they redid the road.
Mhm.
And at that time, there wasn't, that I knew of, any sort of active discussion about the size of the the
The
culvert
culvert.
that's underneath
Is
it,
there, yeah.
the passageway. The biggest hangup with that whole place is the Amtrak.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's doable but difficult and probably.
The real question is the Amtrak one of an adequate size already to be able to support the needs? Because I know that, just being able to kayak through it tells me something that it's fairly large and stuff. And that may be sufficient relative to the tidal area that we're dealing with, as far as based on the flows and all this type of
Right,
stuff.
we did some studies years ago, and there's definitely a lag time flow through there for anything upstream.
Mhm.
And if you have a large storm upstream, like something like over the weekend,
And- right.
rainstorm,
Yeah.
it does not have the capacity to blow out,
Right,
but it backs up there. And then if you get a strong high tide or a high tide
right,
on the other side, there's no place for it to go.
right.
So it's yeah,
But what was got me is that overall, I mean, Amtrak obviously put that culvert in many decades ago.
right.
And the town one looks like it's it should at least be the same, one would commonly think there should be at least the same size as the Amtrak one, and it's not. Just to help us out, to at least have equal amount of flow through it. And so is there, that maybe require bringing, either digging down or raising up relative to, what the Amtrak has, or widening it, going to a box culvert as opposed to just a small circular one. That's the kind of things, should we be proactive from the Conservation Commission getting with the Public Works? I'm just kind of offering again another suggestion idea here, based on all these other things I've seen as far as being proactive with the Public Works folks to, are you doing the necessary engineering analysis and this kind of stuff? Ask those kind of questions of them.
Does that fall under the MS4 analysis for the different
No,
parcels?
because MS4 is all runoff.
Yes,
From the
tidal.
parking lots and your houses and all that stuff into that MS4 drainage system. This is the natural, this is a Public Works issue on the roadway, because this is the culvert that the roadway utilizes on
Okay.
Thomas Road.
Hmm.
In Birch Plain Creek and Bikers Cove is all natural stuff.
Especially if they can get a grant to.
Yeah,
With
that's the whole
spots,
thing is,
yeah.
and just making sure that they're aware of it and that kind of stuff. So, I don't mind as long as everybody kind of concurs, we don't need a motion or anything. I will investigate with the Public Works people as far as on what they're doing already.
Thumbs up from them.
I mean, I certainly don't have a problem making them aware that there's monies available
Yeah,
that they might use for this, but yeah, but in terms of, I mean, that's an engineering analysis.
Oh, yeah.
That we're not equipped to do.
no,
So, yeah.
but we can ask the question, are
You
you?
can ask the question. Okay. No, I have no problems, asking the questions, as a, as a friendly, town commission.
Yeah.
So to speak. All right. Anything else, Tom?
And that's all I had on the open space stewardship, because that's kind of just related to it all.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we're now into new business.
Well, no, we didn't do outreach, because I
Well,
stopped
I asked
before you got into
before, I
it.
didn't hear anything because that was Michelle's shtick.
I don't have anything.
No updates.
Okay,
All right.
Okay,
just wanted to make sure we got it.
okay. Keep me honest, yeah. New business. So we do have the new business. The Groton tree plant, I mean, I did go through it and there's a couple of things that I would ask you guys to pay attention to. There's a section on the value of trees, and that kind of aligns more with the economic model. So I'm going to take a closer look at that. There's a section on budget implications. They have in there reference of 65K. I thought that was more. I'm trying to remember what it was. I thought it's more now than the 65K. Did I misread that? But they did have a reference that they needed like 200,000 or 300,000 K. So that's that budget aspect of it. There's another a section on actions that relate to Conservation Commission responsibilities. So there's probably 5, 6, 7 line items that are stated that, is our responsibility. And there's also some references, which is fine to the open space plan. So I think if you look at the budget implications and focus on the Conservation Commission responsibilities, for our next meeting, because that's the ones I'm going to be asking for your guys' feedback on. It says, do you agree this is our responsibility as going forward? I mean, some of them were straightforward, some of them are a bit of a stretch, in my opinion. Not that we wouldn't want to do it, I'm just saying technically, what is our obligations versus what we want to do. So, kind of read through that and we'll throw that on for our next review. That's public, let's see, is that public information now, Dave? Because
No, it's not. It's just internal because it's a draft at this point. So I'll check to see. I mean, obviously you distributed it to the commission, but
That's final report.
it's draft. It's still
Is it?
draft.
Yeah.
So it's still draft. Yep.
Okay.
So let me check. I'll check and find out for sure. Because I'm hoping by the August meeting that I can include it as part of the agenda packet.
Well, I don't want to get ahead of it because
I
I mean,
agree.
it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. For
Yep.
us to get our input, I need the commission to have access to it, to review it, to provide our input, to then have the final plan, right?
Yep. But if
So-
we're gonna discuss it, yeah, let me figure that out. If we're gonna discuss it in a public forum, then it has to be accessible to the public in case someone else has feedback. But I'll let me check into it. Let me check in to see what
All
the
right,
status
or
is.
if you gotta put a big draft.
Yeah, that maybe we have to do, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so that, yeah, so it's like, yeah, I gotta figure out how to do this,
Yep.
but not step on anybody's toes. Because I think it's good that they sent it to us for our comments.
Yep.
All right, let's see. How did energy consumption come after new business? That's interesting.
Because no, it's energy consumption because they're, so the reason why that's in there is because we had a direct attachment under it's part of that slide number 11 that Tom submitted.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that's
okay.
why it's on there. That last page there was because that was new business and there's nothing else where it really kind of falls into. We had to take it out. It had to be its own special line item under new business.
Okay. All
to
right.
discuss.
All right. All right. So, Tom, since that was your chart, I will turn
Well,
it
no,
back.
I guess you attended that thing also, the energy
Well, I
consumption.
just today,
Oh, you reviewed it?
I reviewed
The webinar.
the webinar.
Yeah, well, I attended it live. And what I found was that, there's a lot of efforts that have been going on, particularly in the more urbanized areas of like New Haven and stuff, where they've got contractors and DEP have ongoing programs to take a look at the total energy consumption of a community, to take a look at what goes in and out into, so that as the DEP is developing their priorities and their programs, that they're using sample communities to ensure that they're approaching everything in the correct manner. As far as should we be going all electric on everything, as opposed to having a mix, and how do I transition to as far as for fuel consumptions? And so one of the things that I found most interesting from listening in on all this was this one chart that they presented to us. That's what's included in your package on page 12. And where I didn't really realize how much energy is what they call this rejected energy, which is energy that we take in, that we and process. We make it from different resources, whether that be nuclear, fuel, gas, solar, wind, whatever you take. And that's what they start on the right-hand side with all these different energy sources, but how much actually is productively used. And it's, what is it? A 60-40 split, where 60% of the stuff is going out to waste. It's just going into heating the atmosphere. Okay. And the other 40% is we're actually doing something with it to turn on a light bulb, or drive an electric car, or whatever, or heat an apartment building. And that's really, I thought, is to put things in perspective, that we don't really realize how inefficient most of our systems are. And that's one of the things that they were going after was, before we get turned down this path of making everything electric, you really ought to be taking a look at making sure that you're doing this efficiently.
And using some of this rejected
Energy,
energy. And
right.
converting it, because heat is energy.
Gee, right.
That's what I took away.
Right, that's also true.
Yeah, so that you can take,
Capture, you have to have that's the whole thing. You have to come up with a method. That's what these consultants really are working with DEP to come up with. How do I capture this rejected energy
right.
before it just goes into the atmosphere?
Yeah.
They're really big batteries.
Well, it's not
No,
necessarily
'cause the-
batteries.
well,
It's more.
This was more on geothermal.
Yeah, geothermal is one way of
Geothermal,
capturing
and
this
then
stuff.
taking heat from other, like wastewater
'cause
or water
right.
systems that already exist, that then you can.
Right. The rejected
capture
energy
some of
is the heat from the system. That's just physics, right? This is
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
anytime you do anything, you waste heat. And the stuff that's using the energy doesn't capture heat. That's the waste of the system.
Yeah.
So waste heat can't go into a battery unless you have something else to capture the heat to feed it to the
convert it.
battery.
I mean, in essence, a ground source is a
Ground sources,
battery.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Or
like
you
a-
have your air conditioning systems that'll capture it. Like if you have a lot of light bulbs, they're giving off heat as well as light. So that's the other things.
So the refrigerator, right? You
A
cool stuff
refrigerator.
down, but you create more energy of
Heat,
heat from the
right.
cooling
Exactly.
process.
And
So
air
it's just
conditioning, yeah.
the nature of energy.
Yeah,
But
but
part
it's
of this
being
is
more
that
efficient in
you-
capturing
Oh,
that stuff.
absolutely. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't do it. It's just that
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, I'm using this, I'm making this electricity and now I'm not using this part of it. No, it's not that's not the part you're not using though. It's the heat that's generated
Yeah.
by process itself.
And we had to generate it all to start with.
Yeah,
Well, were some really interesting things in there, some projects that are being done, like the one in New Haven.
Yeah,
With Union Station, and there's 2 vacant lots, adjacent to Union Station where they can install geothermal.
Mhm.
And they calculated potential savings for the residents in that area. So it's meant, in the end, to be enough energy to service the station as well as neighborhoods and affordable housing that'll be down
that's
there.
awesome.
And the reduction in cost was like 50%.
yeah, but there's a heavy upfront cost.
Well,
That's
the
what- yeah,
upfront costs, and that's the big thing with geothermal. But there are grants available
Yeah.
through IRA, and so the New London, the guy that presented for New London said that they had gotten a huge grant from IRA and the Inflation Reduction Act, and then also getting some money from the Green
yeah,
Bank.
right.
So. And there are other geothermal, so this is actual geothermal, I think, with bored holes.
Bored
that
holes,
go
yes.
800 feet in. There's also the,
Surface geothermal,
Surface
though, you know, you just go into a
Like-
lake or into Long Island Sound and that type
or
of stuff.
just, a certain number of feet in the
Yeah.
ground where you circulate things. So just thinking of Groton and some areas where you might be able to do that, one of the things that came right to my mind was down at the town hall and the new Fitch Community Old Middle School, there's a field there. That you could do.
So they just replanted and
Scene of-
made it fields.
The field-based kind of, even wastewater, which is across the street from that. Or down the street.
Down the street.
Well, you mean Ivy Court area? The town has property there that we just received, another 5 acres or something
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah, I think there's potential for some projects, but.
Well, there are places that
really-
pull it out and then put another hole and put it back in. In other words, you're recycling
Oh,
from the same system. So what you're pulling out to get the heat from that
Right.
water.
yes,
And
and then you put that.
right, instead of just putting it out in the environment, going off somewhere. You're putting it back down into the ground.
Into the ground, circulating, yeah,
Yeah.
some of it.
But that system's that's not gonna capture the waste heat from this other stuff. That's
Never.
just a
Oh, no, no,
system
no,
that
no.
doesn't
Yeah.
generate waste,
No,
like it's,
that was.
yeah, I mean,
And interesting.
right,
the
but
other
you still need to figure out how to capture some of this waste heat from the other process.
But we don't argue that.
That's
That's good. There's
something
multiple
that's-
things that were discussed
okay.
there.
There's a couple of interests that maybe I could send you some websites to look at, and Vermont has been doing this, and they start small and then they make the system so other things can hook in. But that is using, my understanding was the waste heat. So they presented a slide from 2015 on the energy use, so of course I had to go find the current one. And it's actually more wasted energy or what it rejected. It's a higher level, I think.
Went up from 59% to.
Yeah, it's 2 to 1. Yeah, it's 2 to 1 in 2022. And then there's also one for each state, and you can see what are
Oh,
the Connecticut. I can send that to you as well if you want to stick it in there.
Yeah, send us something I can.
Yeah, because our energy profile is very different from the US. But
Well, it sounds like they're able to better measure it to improve the graft, the data points, I'm assuming over time.
yeah.
or there's changes over time in,
Right, well,
Yeah.
there's gonna
Well,
be
which
changes in
there
the
is.
system, but
yeah.
also ways of actually getting a better handle on that wasted heat
Oh,
and measuring the importance of it.
Right, so there's more of it because they're better at measuring it.
Yes,
Where did you find the Connecticut one?
oh,
you have
it's,
it? Is it-
Morse.
Is this the
Vermont
North Livermore
National.
site that, okay,
Yeah, if you just Google that.
okay.
you'll
Yeah, they're run
find
by
it.
the Department of Energy.
Yeah, you can,
Cool.
EIA has it as well, the different inputs, but.
Yeah, I
it's
haven't seen
has
that yet.
input
That's-
at-
I mean, I haven't seen it in that graph form, and I like.
Yeah, I really
that
like
a lot.
this. That's kind of, I wanted to introduce
It's a
that.
Great
Yeah.
visual. Yeah,
It's
great
a good,
visual.
I think it's a discussion area that we as the Conservation Commission should be taking probably a
Oh,
little bit more
absolutely.
proactive
Yeah.
action on this.
All
Cool.
right. Other
Maybe-
comments on that?
I was gonna say, if you want, I can send around that whole PowerPoint, if you want to see it. I can send it around to all of you. Cause Tom sent,
Well, I thought you already sent out the link to it, didn't you? Because
I sent we just attached that slide 11, so I'll just send you I can
Get
send you
them the
the.
link, yeah.
Yeah, well.
Cool. Very cool.
yeah, send out the link. Yeah. PowerPoint is big because I remember looking at it. There's a lot of pictures in there.
Yeah, don't send me a PowerPoint because my
Yeah.
system is not happy with.
I think it's a PDF.
Yeah, I think it's
So-
PDF too. I think it's PDF. It's not a PowerPoint.
Oh.
And I-
Link is still good anyway, though.
I don't know if I don't remember if you
Oh.
sent me, was there a link? I
I'll
can't
go-
remember.
I'll
It's
go
fine. I'll
look.
check tomorrow.
Okay.
It's fine. You don't have to check it now.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I just Googled it and it went to a PDF.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I think you sent me the PDF because that's how I don't remember.
I told you to take page 11. of
Yeah,
it, but
so I
think
did that,
sent
so it may have
to you.
been,
I
but
may
I'll
have
do it.
sent to you.
And
Okay.
All right. So the action there is we'll get the entire presentation out via link, et cetera, and folks can look at that. All right. Any other new business?
Just one other thing, just for general information, I had gotten the 50th anniversary of Kakiwick is this year, and I think you're
Oh,
taking
cool.
taking action to keep our membership active.
yeah, we do that.
I want to give you credit.
Thanks.
Kudos to Dave. All right. Speaking of Dave, report of staff.
Don't have anything, Larry.
What? Wait a
I
minute.
know, huh? I
How did
gave you one.
graduation go?
I know.
Wait a minute.
See, Tom covered it. I can't say anything else anymore.
Yeah,
Surprisingly, we covered everything, so.
okay. Well then, I'm sorry, your arm is just out of the picture. I don't. Oh, really? Yes,
I will
Michelle.
be adjourned.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Hi.
August 5th is our next meeting, guys. So,
Early.
Yeah, just Larry, I will not be here, nor have connectivity. So
okay. So it still leaves us with a quorum, so I think we'll
Yeah.
be okay. All
Great.
right, very good, guys.
All right. See you later, Larry.
Yep.
Bye-bye, Larry.
All right.
Bye, Larry.
Bye now.
Those were-